Hello everyone, and today we got a little bit of an insight into how some of the loot is going to work in Knights of the Fallen Empire, particularly for PvE. I don't know how PvP or what. PvP is usually fairly straightforward in terms of loot. You spend wars. It's even more straightforward these days, I guess. You just spend Warzone comms on it, and then you buy the piece, and then you buy the upgraded piece for more Warzone comms. I think there has a certain Valor rank that you need to hit, but anyway, I don't do PvP, so this is going to cover PvE. So what is going to happen is you've got all the raids that are available, again, all the raids, because they're too lazy to create new content. So we're going over that, and I'm going to mention that every time I mention a raid in 4.0. They're too fucking lazy. That's what they are. They're just too lazy. But we have story content. Our space bars will be exercised, so we're over that, really. So the biggest change that is going is that, of course, because we have all the ops that the game has had available to us at level 65. I think it's like, what, 7, 8 ops or something like that? I think it's more than that, actually. I can't remember. I can't be bothered counting them. But anyway, so what it's going to do is there's going to be a operation that is a designated target. Okay, is what you're going to get. I don't remember that if that's the exact words, but that's the words I'm using. So there's going to be an operation that is going to have a target. Now, the difference between this is going to change. I think it's going to change weekly. I think it is going to change. So basically, if you do that operation in hard mode, we're talking about hard mode, not story mode. Story mode is going to have a rotating group finder operation. I wish they'd get rid of group finder operations, to be honest. Barely anybody uses group finder for ops these days. And you know, hopefully the ultimate crystals or whatever they are actually worth obtaining, because there's no point in giving us a reward where, you know, it's not worth it. Like ultimate comms via group finder these days, who cares? Who cares? We care now because we're going to get to buy. The other big change is they're going to let us buy, they're letting us keep our ultimate comms when they get converted to the crystals. So keeping our ultimate and elites, which is a stupid design choice, and it will just create a massive gap between those who are there at the beginning of the expansion and those who are new. So well done, BioWare, for putting that gap there. You know, congratulations, good job on that gap. It's a bonehead move, but do we expect anything else from BioWare at this stage? The idea that they can make good decisions regards to this game, I've long abandoned that hope that they could ever make a good decision. But let's get back to the point. The point is how the loot is going to work. So a hard mode operation will normally drop item level. They're using the term item level now. Interesting. We're not World of Warcraft, people. We're not. We are. We are WoW. We're WoW in disguise. We're WoW in space, basically. But, yeah, they're using the term eye level. So eye level 220 is what's going to drop. If you do the operation with the designated target, all of the bosses in that operation, is what they've said, they clarified that later on, will drop item level 224 gear. So there you go. It won't just be the final boss. It will be the final boss, will be the target, and they'll have a sort of buff on them to say that it will be the sort of designated target for the week. I guess for the week or for the day. Not too sure about that. I guess it'll be a weekly thing. So you get a chance at a higher item level. That is what they're using. Their words, not mine. You know, people say, oh, you're ripping off WoW, and stop using WoW terminology. Stop calling it raids when it's operations. They use raids as well. You know, we might as well call it what it is. You know, it's a WoW ripoff is what the game is. We need to be honest there. That's just me being honest. It isn't me trying to provoke a reaction out of you. That is just me being honest. As someone who's played both games, yeah, it's pretty much a WoW ripoff at this stage. So yeah, you're gonna get a slightly higher gear drop for that. Now it's I don't know about this change. I guess if you're running your raid night, I guess as a guild, and it's the designated op, and then everybody, whatever your loot system, everybody is gonna want to roll on that 224 gear. So hopefully it'll be a daily thing. You know, I don't like being told the op. I'm gonna get the page up. Stupidly put the page down before recording this video, but yeah, that is one of the biggest. It's quite a big change, because what's going to happen is you're going to get it's going to be each week one hard mode operation is the high priority target. There you go, high priority target. You visit the fleet and visit the Flashpoint operations section. You find a target analysis computer with a holo version of the last boss on the op, specifying the operation. So it'll have a buff when you're inside it. So the hard mode bosses, the high priority target, they all drop 224, and it's going to be each boss in the instance, not just the final boss, is what they clarified. So yep, so what happens is when you do your first raid of the week, you're gonna have to be there, aren't you? Because everybody's gonna want to roll on the 224 stuff, and I can see there being massive arguments over loot again. Hopefully they fix the loot system, because in Shadow of Revan the loot system was fucking horrible. Okay, the only way to get gear, like once you started raiding, the only way to get better gear was to just keep raiding, and we only had 2 operations with 10 bosses, and you know, you got so fed up with that, there was nothing else you could do outside of raiding to really upgrade your gear. Ultimate Com gear, not an upgrade, just wasn't an upgrade. Okay, the Deceiver Mark 1 gear, horrible. When you had Resurrected was very good. Resurrected was decent, it was kind of best in slot for story mode ops, and then when you moved on to hard mode ops, you got the Revanite pieces, and you never looked at Ultimate Comms, you never looked at Elite Comms, you just focused on the Resurrected and Revanite pieces. I wish they would do something about that, give us some better gear, even have an upgrade system where you could upgrade Deceiver Mark 1 to Deceiver Mark 2. Now Deceiver Mark 2 wasn't too bad, you know, it was good, it was not a bad alternative to Resurrected, but Deceiver Mark 1 was just so bad, it's like, nah, I'm good. I'll just stick with my 190 enhancement, because they were better. The 190 enhancements gave you more power. They did. All you got was main stat. What was it? No, it was endurance was the name. Enhancement had endurance, power or crit, if you were a DPS or healer, and either accuracy, alacrity, or surge. Now you did get the most surge. Alacrity, it's the tertiary stat we'll use. So you get the most tertiary stat, but the secondary stat was just terrible. And bear in mind, if you were a DPS and you were accuracy capped, adding more accuracy wasn't a benefit. So, as if you were accuracy capped with 190 gear, it was fine. It was okay. You were okay with that. But yeah, I could see that leading to problems, really, or having, you know, people arguing over loot, whatever loot system you use, whether you use DKP, or I don't think anyone uses DKP, or Loot Council, or what else do we use? Suicide King's quite a popular one. So yeah, you're gonna get the person, and imagine you're top of the Suicide Kings thing. You're at the top of the list. Aren't you just going to wait to get yourself a bit of 224 piece rather than a 220? I can see it causing issues with guilds, because one of the things I'm sick of in the raiding scene is arguments over loot. Personally, I hate the current loot system. I wish they would update the need, greed, or pass system, really. And it's going to get worse in 4.0, especially with non-kind-of tier pieces, because every single piece is going to have mastery in it. There's only one stat, so you're going to get a piece that's mastery, you know, it's mastery, endurance, mastery, endurance, power, crit, say, is the stats from that piece. 224, you're going to get everybody's going to roll on that, and there's going to be so much arguing and so much competition that, and there's going to be such a sort of pain in the arse to get loot, because everyone's going, oh, I need the loot, oh, I need it, and then there's going to just be a huge argument. One of the things I was sick of in Shadow of Revan was you killed the boss and then had a 10-minute argument over who got the loot, right? We killed the boss, yay, who gets the loot? And it's like a 10-minute thing, and it's a long, drawn-out process, and it's a pain in the arse. And I hope that, I'd personally like to see the personal loot system, kind of similar to what Guild Wars 2 has. Also, World of Warcraft has it as well, where you click the boss and the loot that you see is the loot for you. So if you click the boss and a 220 relic is there, you click the 220 relic and you receive it. Someone else might click the boss and get a 220 implant. Okay, they might see that, or they might click the boss, it'll just be comms that will be there, and they haven't got a piece. What happens is when you kill the boss, the loot rolls are done in the background. The game does the loot rolls for you and decides who gets a piece of loot. Now, some would argue it's maybe a bit unfair, but I want a fairer loot system. I mean, it can be a little bit unfair, like someone could get 3 pieces of loot theoretically from from bosses, but bear in mind there's a lot more bosses. Also, boss drops are going to be fixed, so the loot is going to be fixed, so there's not that much loot. I imagine bosses will drop the same loot. I imagine the harder bosses will probably drop the main hands. I imagine Kephis, pretty tough. Kephis, Dread Council, maybe Brontes, maybe Revan certainly probably will drop a main hand. So if you want that, you're going to have to kill one of the more difficult end bosses. What are the most difficult end bosses? Kephis was one of the toughest. Kephis, I'd say Kephis, Brontes, Dread Council, Revan, probably the hardest ones in the game currently. I imagine the other ones probably drop chests. Soa dropped the chest, Rakata chest in hard mode. I imagine, you know, Soa, Coratini, Karaga. Who else was there again? It was the Terror from Beyond, Styrak. Can't think of them all now, to be honest with you, but you get the idea. So hopefully we'll get... In fact, it wasn't Styrak who dropped the main hand. Styrak dropped the chest. It was the Cartel Warlords dropped the main hand in Scum and Villainy. I remember that now. But I don't know what they're going to do with regards to the system that's in place. Maybe have a system that's automated, at least for the group finder in story mode. Maybe for hard mode, if you have guilds, you could have Master Looter, but get rid of the Need Greed Pass system, because all it does is encourage ninja looters and, you know, encourage a huge debate. I'm sick of it. I got sick of that so quickly, and I even made a video about it in Shadow of Revan. It was one of the things that puts you off raiding. It puts you off joining a pug group is, yeah, I don't fancy the 10-minute debate over loot. Even then, even just last week, there was people debating, oh, who should get the loot? What's the loot rules? It's like, who gives a fuck? Right, we were 2 weeks away at that point from the next expansion where we're going to get like 220 and stuff like that. 192 is going to be irrelevant at level 65. It ain't going to be worth looking, to be honest, at level 65. So it's going to be completely worthless. Probably going to get 198 or 200 at least while leveling, I'd imagine. We're going to get that at the later chapters probably of the story. It will probably give us 200 odd, you know, 204, 206. I've seen some of the crafted gear at 206. I think the PvP gear is 206 as well. So who cares about 192 gear, really? Who the hell cares at this stage in the expansion? If I win the piece, I win the piece. I don't care. I'm still going to roll on, obviously. It's an upgrade, you know, but if I win it, I don't care. I was like, who cares if somebody gets all the loot, because it's going to be out of date so quickly in 4.0. You're going to get loot while leveling. Gear while leveling has never been an issue in any of the expansions. So Rishi gave you 198 and then, no, 168 and then 178, I think it gave you, and you got 162 from Forged Alliances. So you never had any problems gearing while leveling. When we hit the new end game anyway, we'll be able to buy whatever the ultimate gear is anyway, and the ultimate crystal. I'm calling them the ultimate crystals. I can't even remember what their names are, but anyway, that is all for this video. So what do you think of the loot system? Should it change, or should it just stay the way it is? Because I'm fed up with arguments over loot. But anyway, that is all. So thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon, and goodbye.